Thanks for your patience. I'm going to talk about Neo4j graph database and integration with Databricks Lakehouse platform. Now, the challenge in today's world is how do we manage and build graphs and do a contextual analysis on unstructured data. And that is where we believe that Neo4j plays a pivotal role in integration with Databricks, Lakehouse, or something similar. Just a little bit of background about myself. I've been in industry about close to 30 years. My background had been primarily in ERP systems such as SAP. And in the last 5-7 years, I've moved into more graph technologies and AI-centric transformations. What problem we are trying to solve? The biggest problem is the enterprise has data primarily stored in structured and unstructured data. And structured data is easy peasy. We manage it through SQL databases, but unstructured data is where the challenge comes. Now, in the last 5 years, the generative AI has taken the center stage, and that has compounded the problem further. Now, with the Lakehouse architecture, that solves significant problems that we faced in the past. And this is where Neo4j's graph technology helps in understanding the relationships and the connections between our entities. And if you look at on the right-hand side, the third bullet on the right-hand side, that really sums it up basically. The true intelligence requires understanding connections, not just isolated data points. So to give you a paradigm, if I place an order, who placed an order, when was it placed, where it's getting shipped to, what were the order items, where it is shipping from, where it is shipping to. There are a lot of relationships and connections in just one transaction. Entities here are the orders, the address, the customer, but rest all is all relationships and connections. And that is where most of the technologies that we use in our enterprise fail. And this is where the integrated platform or something like Databricks plus Neo4j's graph database comes handy. The core components that we are going to do a deeper dive on is two components of Databricks, that is Delta Lake, Unity Catalog from Databricks side, and then Neo4j Graph Database. Now, Databricks I'm using specifically because we specialize in Databricks as a partnership in Hunartech. But technologies used in Databricks are pretty open source technologies, and any other product such as Snowflake or Microsoft Fabric can also be replaced. But the use case example here is primarily on Databricks with Neo4j because Neo4j has been going full stream with Databricks, to my understanding. A little bit on Databricks. Databricks storage platform is built on Delta Lake. Delta Lake is open source technology. It's a very reliable storage platform. Its underlying format is Parquet file format. It is a columnar file format. Those who do not know or are new, typically we store data in row format. And Parquet format is a columnar-based database. It's very similar to SAP DB also, or SAP HANA, where data is not saved in rows but in columns. So it provides the full asset. It has full transformations on each and every column that you can do. Performance is much better compared to row-based databases. And some of the other features I'm going to talk in future are basically time travel and undo. And it's an open format, unlike some proprietary formats like Oracle. This is open format. So like we talked, it's a Parquet file format. Each transaction you do in Databricks is stored in a transaction log. So you make a change, you update, you do delete. Each one gets stored and tracked. So it provides a single source of truth as well as atomicity. We talked about asset transactions. It also does a schema enforcement and schema evolution on the fly. So anytime I need to add a new column, I can do that in Delta Lake file format. Time travel. This is a key feature or a highlight of Delta Lake, which is leveraged in Databricks or in any other technology that uses Delta Lake format. Allows you to undo any transactions that you have done or any operations you have done on Databricks or any other solution. In a Parquet file format, each transaction is stored as a separate file, and the previous state is stored all the time. So unless you run explicit transaction to delete those old records or old files, actually, I should say specifically, you can go back and do a rollback very easily, very conducively. So that's what it's called, time travel. And it has been very handy most of time whenever we do debugging or do issue resolutions in replications. Now comes the elephant in the room, the governance. In any company, typically we use 10, 20, 30 systems, and customer master or customer information stored in 20 systems, same with sales information, same with employees, maybe to a limited extent, 4, 5 systems. Governance becomes a big challenge. Every enterprise application, you take SAP, NetSuite, Salesforce, they have their own way of doing the governance. The biggest challenge comes in when you are trying to analyze data in a central repository through a data warehouse or through some kind of analytics platform. How do you govern it? And every system does it differently. And this is where I think Databricks shines with its Unity Catalog platform solution. In Unity Catalog, you can do the governance on each object or each entity type, a user, a customer, the access, the objects that you have created, and you can propagate down the line across different systems. And again, this is also an open source solution. It helps you do a central metadata management. So for example, if I create a notebook in Databricks, I can maintain and govern it centrally. In fact, I can move that notebook to another application, and I can still track and manage its metadata. I have, let's say, a table in SQL Server on-prem or on cloud. I can access it in Databricks as a managed table or unmanaged table, and I can govern it. If it's let's say, if it's a table is still sitting in the SQL Server, I cannot govern it completely, but I will have access to all the fields and columns, and I can control it within the Databricks platform. Now, the other good feature Unity Catalog allows is automated data lineage. The moment you make a change to any attribute, it propagates throughout the Databricks platform. And I'm going to talk in future, next slides, how it propagates into Neo4j as well. Graph database, I think this is the key here. Graph database allows you to store the relationships and the entities and their connections. And Neo4j has been the leader over the last 15 years in bringing that to the mainstream. The language that is used in Neo4j Cypher is very robust, and that is what has been used in integration also, which I'm going to shed light on. knowledge graphs. Knowledge graphs, we know on Neo4j is the real world entities, nodes, and relationships that connects them in a structured queryable format. In Neo4j, it allows you to ingest, model, enrich, and results are visible in a graph format. Graph data science library. Okay, this is a new library from Neo4j. It is basically enterprise-grade algorithm that allows you to visualize large data sets in memory, actually, and the relationships. And it has about close to 65 algorithms across multiple categories. And the benefit is that it allows for the scalability as well as integration across multiple systems. GDS has a central principle of centrality algorithm. So basically, it allows you to do the page ranking. There are special use cases that has been built into this library. And some of the use cases are customer segmentations, fraud detections, and analysis of research topics. There are two connectors that are used typically to do the integration between Databricks and Neo4j, and we're going to touch on those two briefly. One is the old traditional connector that has been in existence for a while. That's called Neo4j Spark connector. That's the primary bridge to connect between Neo4j graph database and Databricks. It's a two-way connection, and it allows you to query Neo4j using Cypher. And it allows you to access the Spark data frames and see the Spark data frame results. And as you build your solution in Databricks through the medallion architecture, those who don't know medallion architecture, it is basically bronze set of tables, silver set of tables, gold set of tables at different aggregation levels. For example, gold is the final version from which we do the business level reporting. And bronze is the raw layer where we bring all the raw data from different sources together and do transformations. So in an ideal use case scenario, we use the gold level tables and access that and use that to feed to Neo4j. The connection allows the read, transform, and write from Lakehouse to graph, as well as it allows from the other side, from graph to Lakehouse, the query and to pull and to analyze. As of today, Neo4j has provided a new connection called Neo4j connector for Unity catalog. Now, this is something that has been made available from Neo4j Labs fairly recently. Earlier, the Spark connector that we talked about in the previous slide, that did not had access to the Unity catalog, the catalog that is used for metadata and data governance. Now, this new connector from Neo4j allows the metadata governance of Unity catalog as well. So right now it has been released. The new connector, it is available. The link I have provided is on GitHub. But I would play a little bit of caution to use it straight away into your production landscape. I would advise to use it in your test environment first, smooth out any discrepancies, and then perhaps slowly move it into production. I have summarized some key differences between those two old connectors. Right off the bat, in the first table, at the top table and the third line, you can see it's lab and beta. That's my personal assessment. I mean, different people have said that it is almost ready. I personally felt that it is still in a pre-beta stage per se. Now, the main difference is the Neo4j connector to Unity Catalog is SQL based. The old connector was using PySpark, so it was Spark based technology. So that's the main difference. And with the access to connect to Unity Catalog in Databricks, that exposes you all the metadata and the catalog information of all your objects that you have created in Databricks. And that allows for complete two-way communication. Governed data pipelines. This is the new paradigm, basically. Governed AI pipelines means you create the policies and standards at one place and cascade it throughout your landscape between the Databricks as well as Neo4j platform. And it is important primarily because of the transparency and regulatory controls. Recently, EU launched a new compliance on AI, and that has kind of necessitated companies to start investing in the governed AI pipelines, where the governance is done and managed throughout the data pipeline that is used for AI or any kind of LLM activities. Governance is a topic where there are a lot of ways you can skin the cat, but at the end of the day, it has to provide end-to-end data lineage. It needs to be synchronized throughout the landscape. And we believe that this new connector is achieving close to nirvana as far as the governance is concerned. And as this connector matures, this will provide full end-to-end data lineage and complete synchronized governance across the landscape. Now, with LLMs in the play, you can use LLMs in multiple ways with Neo4j. There's a graph LLM system and GraphRAG, wherein I can have a user query converted in knowledge graphs, pass it on to LLMs, and that generates the response, or I can do vice versa. I've done a comparison here. There is a basic lexical graph and then the parent-child retriever. Both ways, based on your business needs, you can approach it. Part two is more prevalent, so I'm going to spend some more time on that. In text to cipher, basically, you pass your query to LLM. Then LLM basically understands it, converts it into the cipher that Neo4j understands, goes out into Neo4j platform, gets the information, retrieves it, and converts it back into user understandable context and presents it. This is the most common way how GraphRAG has been implemented with LLM. There are a lot of use cases, I'm sure, with throughout this sessions and conferences, you have heard about all the different use cases. Now I'm going to touch about it. The 4 use cases where it's been used extensively is customer 360 and personalization. Customer 360 has been in the center stage. More and more companies have started implementing customer data platforms to better understand their customers. There are a lot of products out there, Segment, Salesforce, that offers customer 360 solutions, but almost all of them are having relationships, but they store data in RDMS format. I believe Neo4j is in a very good place and position to transform this and create a new paradigm with graph-based customer 360. Last year, I presented a complete solution on that in the same Hunatech and Neo4j's presentation on customer 360. So that's a huge one that I believe is going to come in the next 3-4 years, where companies are going to build custom solutions on customer 360 using some kind of graph technology. Supply chain optimization has also picked up graph-based solutions quite a lot. Some of the solutions, such as Blue Yonder in supply chain, they were started using graph to good extent. In a supply chain, your key objective is the route optimizations, and almost all the supply chain solutions use 3PL, third-party logistics, for deliveries or for actual shipments, and that is where graph technology comes very handy. Healthcare and life sciences, here there's a big what's the right word? There's a big use case for graph database to integrate with of the relationships between the genes and the drugs and the research that is happening. It has come to light in some of the researches that any, for example, medication or therapy that works in one part of the continent, let's say Africa, I'm just giving an example, it's not correct 100%, may not be replicable to another part of the world because of the way our heredity has evolved. And that is where graph technology helps us uncover what are the discrepancies and outliers where one kind of treatment or solution in the medicine world does not work or work differently. IT network management is an area also where graph technology has started making inroads. If you look at your enterprise landscape, there are hundreds and thousands of servers. Think of them as nodes, and then there are connections, all the networks and LANs connecting all of them. And each LAN is doing a communication or transmission of IP packets of different kind of data. Some data is on CRM data, some data is on ERP data, some is on sensitive PI data like HR data. And that is where graph technology has come into very handy. Some of the best practices on Lakehouse side, there's the optimization command and then Z ordering. That is used on the Delta Lake file format we talked about that uses the Parquet file format for compression and to accelerate the queries. So that is used extensively on Lakehouse. On Lakehouse, there's a new engine called Photon engine that is built on C++. By default, earlier it was not the default engine in Databricks. So some of the old customers, they continue to use the old technologies. And now it's always encouraged to use the Photon engine on Lakehouse or Databricks. On Graph side, some of the big improvements or best practices you have is to create indexes. Frequently, we know that. And keep the data model clean and simple. Overall, the architectural practices that we use is to focus on caching, continuous monitoring, and emphasize on the serverless computing. That is it for 30 minutes. To summarize, I think 2 more minutes. To summarize, there are 2 connectors right now in the play to connect or integrate Databricks platform with Neo4j. One is the old traditional connector that is built on Spark, but it does not do or it does not exposes the Unity catalog for metadata and governance. The new connector introduced by Neo4j is for Unity catalog. It also supports two-way communication. However, it is being developed and actively being evolved right now. So play caution with that. Going forward, definitely I would recommend using the Unity catalog connector as a connector for the future. That is it, guys. Thank you. Feel free to connect me on LinkedIn. I'm a boot advisor with Hunar Tech.